In your work life, do you feel more a performer or a person?
Oh, wow. That is a heavy question right out of the gate.
I really want you to just sit with that for a second. When you log into that morning Zoom huddle or walk through those glass office doors, are you stepping onto a stage?
Like you're delivering this highly rehearsed routine.
Exactly, a routine. Or are you actually showing up as a full, complex human being?
That really is the defining tension of the modern workplace, isn't it?
It totally is.
Because we exist inside these massive, complex corporate systems that are almost entirely designed to measure our value by what we produce.
Yeah, the sales numbers, the daily productivity
A
metrics.
relentless quarterly deadlines, right? It's an incredibly efficient machine, but it constantly demands output and often at the direct expense of our humanity.
And yet, deep down, none of us are sitting around in traffic craving another glowing performance review.
No one lies awake at night dreaming about hitting a KPI.
Right. What we actually crave, fundamentally, is meaningful connection. We want relationships in the middle of the marketplace that actually honor who we are, not just what we can do for the bottom line.
Which is exactly why this deep dive is so vital. We are really looking at how to reconcile that massive, painful gap between the market's demand for relentless production and our very human need for deep connection.
And the material guiding us today, it just hits the nail so squarely on the head. We are diving into a book called The Value of Currency, When Performance Meets Relationship in the Marketplace.
By Bishop John Jackson Deedy.
Yes, and his background is what makes this so compelling to me. He isn't just someone theorizing from an academic ivory tower.
Not at all.
He has over 40 years of experience directly bridging the gap between ruthless corporate boardrooms and empathetic ministry. He's the founder and senior executive officer of Greater Works Global CDC.
Which is a community development corporation, meaning his work is literally about building up local economies and communities.
Get his hands dirty. And he also serves as the Florida state spokesman for the Protect Our Children project.
Yeah.
And woven through all of that executive and community leadership, he's a family man, looking at the world through the lens of having 3 adult children and 10 grandchildren.
That generational perspective is just crucial context here because he has navigated corporate spaces, nonprofits, faith-based arenas for decades.
He's seen it all.
He really has. He has seen firsthand the absolute magic that happens when leaders get this balance right. And he's been called in to clean up the wreckage when they get it disastrously wrong.
I am so excited about this one.
Yeah.
It sits right at that perfect intersection of theology and Tuesday morning staff meetings.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
It takes these profound, almost abstract spiritual concepts and just drags them right down to earth, right into the boardroom. So the core premise here frames this entire conflict using the metaphor of economic currencies.
Right. If you are operating in a marketplace, you need currency to trade. But the book argues that there are actually 2 very distinct currencies in play at all times, whether we consciously realize it or not.
Okay.
The first one is the one we are all heavily trained to focus on, performance currency.
The usual stuff.
Exactly. This is the realm of results, revenue, quotas, operational efficiency. It is the highly tangible, measurable output of your daily labor.
And it is important to clarify right off the bat that performance is not the villain here.
No, definitely not.
The text points out that Scripture absolutely affirms diligence and excellence in our work. You cannot just ignore the bottom line and expect to keep the lights on.
You really can't. But the trap, and it's a trap almost every modern organization falls into, is assuming that performance currency is the only currency that matters.
Yeah.
The material introduces a second, often invisible asset, which is relationship currency. This is made up of trust, honor, covenant, peace, and ultimately your legacy.
Okay, let's unpack this because it can sound a bit abstract at first glance.
Sure.
I was trying to picture how these 2 currencies actually interact in the real world, and I thought of it like a car.
Oh, I like that.
Performance currency is the engine. It's the combustion, the horsepower, the thing that actually propels the vehicle forward and gets you from point A to point B.
Right.
But relationship currency,
Right.
that's the oil.
That is a brilliant way to visualize the mechanism at play, because what happens to an engine without oil?
It runs incredibly hot for a few miles, sounds terrible, and then it completely seizes up, breaks down, and probably catches fire.
Exactly.
And that perfectly mirrors the warning in the book. It states that if you are operating strictly on performance without relationship, what you have isn't a culture, it's just burnout in motion.
Burnout in motion. And in a corporate setting, that looks like a team that absolutely crushes their Q3 goals. But by Q4, half the department is actively updating their resumes and taking stress leave.
Right, they're just done.
You might be hitting your numbers temporarily, but you are actively hemorrhaging the trust required to sustain that pace.
But the flip side is equally dangerous, right? Because a gallon of premium synthetic oil sitting in a garage without an engine isn't going to get you out of the driveway.
Exactly.
The text calls relationship without performance, good intentions without impact. That's the team that spends weeks on bonding retreats and trusts each other deeply, but completely misses every single product launch deadline. You absolutely need both the engine and the oil.
And this need for deep integration is anchored in a very specific biblical lens.
Oh yeah, the Thessalonians first.
Right. The book points to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 12 and 13. And using the complete Jewish Bible translation, it highlights a really specific mandate. Know intimately those who are laboring among you.
Know intimately. Not just manage them, not just track their billable hours.
Precisely. It is a direct mandate to see your coworkers, your employees, your clients, and your vendors as whole, complex people, not just as interchangeable functions on an org chart. Knowing them intimately means knowing what drives them, knowing they have a kid struggling in school, knowing their career anxieties. It's an invitation to treat them as human beings with inherent value.
But that leads me to the obvious practical hurdle here. As a manager or a team lead or a CEO, how do you actually measure something as invisible as relationship currency?
Because it's not on the P&L statement.
Exactly. The performance metrics are completely visible. They are right there on a spreadsheet. You can see the revenue drop in black and white. So how do you audit a relationship?
The material answers that by focusing on the absolute core component of relationship currency, which is trust. It frames trust not as this fuzzy, abstract feeling, but as a quantifiable, manageable asset. Think of it as a literal, interest-bearing bank account that exists between you and every single person you work with.
I love this framing because it takes something invisible and makes it highly mechanical.
It really does. In this trust account, every single interaction you have is a transaction. When you keep a promise, when you have an honest, vulnerable conversation, when you show genuine empathy after a mistake, these are all tangible deposits.
You are putting relational equity into the account.
Exactly.
So the withdrawals must be like the standard corporate maneuvering. A manager taking credit for a junior designer's slide deck.
Oh, absolutely.
A hidden agenda in a budget meeting.
Yeah.
A half-truth about why a promotion was denied.
Yes. Every single time that happens, the balance drops.
Yeah.
And the mechanism here is crucial to understand. If a team has a high trust balance, if the leadership has been making steady deposits for years, that team can weather incredible storms.
Yeah.
They can handle a sudden market downturn or a massive organizational restructuring because they have the relational equity to absorb the shock of that stress.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because suddenly this gives leaders a tangible way to audit their team culture. You don't have to guess why a project failed. You can look at the dynamic and ask, are we overdrawn on trust? Because a bankruptcy in trust means every single Slack message is suddenly read with suspicion.
That is exactly the symptom of an overdrawn account. When a team is running on a negative trust balance, they will completely derail over a minor pivot. Something as small as changing a software platform or adjusting a weekly meeting time will cause a full-blown crisis.
Because they aren't reacting to the software change. They're reacting to the overdraft fees.
Exactly.
And an overdraft fee in a corporate setting is devastating. It's massive employee turnover. It's losing your best client because an overworked employee didn't care enough to flag a typo. It's a culture of self-protection rather than collaboration.
Which naturally leads to the next massive paradigm shift in the book. Because once a leader actually realizes their trust account is bankrupt, how do they fix it? You can't just sign a new policy into effect. You have to change the very foundation of the professional agreement itself. You have to shift the focus from legal minimums to human maximums. This is the difference between a contract and a covenant.
And we all fundamentally understand contracts. Contracts are purely transactional, and they are rooted entirely in protection and defense.
Yes.
The unspoken underlying language of a standard contract is, if you do X, I will do Y, and if you fail to do X, here is the legal mechanism I will use to protect myself from you.
It is entirely defensive. It is preparing for and almost anticipating the other person to fail. A covenant, however, operates on an entirely different frequency. Covenants are redemptive.
Redemptive.
Yeah, they are rooted in deep commitment and mutual growth. The language of a covenant is, even when you struggle, even when you miss the mark, I am still committed to your development. We are in this together.
The book argues that applying this covenant thinking to standard contract environments, like employment agreements or vendor partnerships, shifts a workplace toward what it calls redemptive leadership.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text is very careful to explain what kingdom leaders and redemptive leadership actually mean in a grounded secular boardroom.
Right, because it's not just a church thing.
Exactly. It means operating on a set of eternal relationship-first values. It means playing an infinite game focused on long-term human flourishing, rather than a finite game focused only on the next quarterly earnings call.
Yeah.
The author is a seasoned businessman. He doesn't demonize contracts. He acknowledges they are necessary in a fallen world to provide boundaries. But the point is that the contract is simply the floor. The covenant is the ceiling.
Okay, I have to offer a gentle pushback here on behalf of anyone listening who works in a highly competitive, cutthroat industry.
Please do.
Because bringing covenant thinking into a brutal corporate contract negotiation sounds a bit naive, doesn't it? Or even risky.
I hear that a lot.
Right. If I'm sitting across the table from a vendor who is actively trying to eat my lunch and maximize their own profit, and I'm focused on their, quote, development and mutual growth, I'm just going to get crushed.
It's a very valid concern, and the material anticipates it. But it clarifies that operating with a covenant mindset is about integration, not naivete. It doesn't mean abandoning discernment or tossing out your boundaries or letting bad actors take advantage of you.
So how does that actually work when you have to make a hard business decision?
It changes your motive and your method. You can still enforce boundaries, demand excellence, and even terminate a partnership. But under a covenant mindset, you do it from a posture of respect.
Okay, give me an example.
For example, if you have to let an employee go because they aren't hitting performance metrics, a contract mindset does a Friday afternoon perp walk with security.
Ugh, yeah. The worst.
A covenant mindset provides generous severance, treats them with absolute dignity, and offers career transition assistance. You ensure that the relationship leads while the performance follows. It's a shift in motive, not a surrender of standard business sense.
That distinction changes everything. It's not about being a pushover. It's about operating with your own integrity intact, even when the other person isn't.
Exactly.
But to actually implement this covenant mindset day to day, a leader has to physically and mentally change where they position themselves in the organization. Which brings us to the concept of the shepherd CEO.
Yes. The Shepherd CEO is a model built entirely on proximity rather than position.
Proximity.
In traditional corporate hierarchies, leadership is often about elevation. Climbing the ladder, getting the corner office on the top floor, and putting as much physical and operational distance as possible between yourself and the front lines.
You're untouchable out there.
Right. But a true shepherd doesn't bark orders from a distant, comfortable hill. A shepherd walks directly among the flock.
The book translates the biblical picture of Jesus as the Good Shepherd perfectly into modern logistics. Leading from among means visiting the warehouse floor. It means sharing the labor and, taking customer service calls when the team is swamped. It means genuinely listening to the friction points.
Because that proximity is the only way you gather accurate data. When you lead from above, you only see a spreadsheet recording a 5% drop in productivity. You assume the team is lazy.
Yeah. But when you lead from among, you are standing next to the person struggling with the clunky, outdated software that is actually causing the delay. You see the systemic issue, not just the symptom.
There is one specific phrase regarding this shepherd leadership that just grabbed me. The text says a shepherd CEO focuses on correcting as care rather than control.
That is perhaps the most profound behavioral shift in the entire framework.
Because it is completely counterintuitive to how managers are usually trained. Think about standard correction. Usually, it's a disciplinary action aimed entirely at forcing the employee back into alignment with a metric.
Yes.
It's about control. Like, you missed your quota this month, fix it, or you were going on a performance improvement plan.
Exactly. The underlying message is, your behavior is threatening my bonus, and I need to control you to protect myself.
But correcting as care, what does that actually sound like in practice? Correcting as care completely changes the script. Instead of a threat, it sounds like, hey, your output dropped significantly this month, which isn't like you. What systemic roadblocks are you facing right now, and how do we remove them together so you can succeed?
Wow.
It implies you are correcting the person because you actually care about their long-term potential and their well-being.
And the employee can feel the difference instantly. The correction actually becomes a massive deposit into the trust account rather than a withdrawal.
Exactly.
And that day-to-day practice, that highly intentional covenant building and shepherd leadership, ultimately compounds. It builds up to the final phase of the book, which deals with the ultimate form of relational wealth, which is legacy.
Legacy, because when you really step back and look at it, relationship currency is the only thing that actually outlives a job title.
It's true.
Nobody remembers or cares what your Q3 profit margins were 10 years ago, but they will absolutely remember how you made them feel during a crisis and who they became under your mentorship.
The text poses a defining question here that every leader at every level needs to wrestle with. What are you leaving in people, not just for people?
It's a brilliant distinction. Leaving something for people is simply an inheritance. It's a financial severance package, a balanced budget, or a nice office building.
But leaving something in people, that's instilling character. It's transferring skills, building resilience, and modeling faith. It's transforming how they view their own potential.
And this is where the author's own biography becomes the proof of concept. With decades of leadership and 10 grandchildren, he naturally thinks in terms of generational impact.
Yeah.
He isn't looking 10 weeks down the line to the next earnings report. He is looking 10 to 20 years down the line. He's asking, who are these young employees going to be in 2 decades because of the environment I am cultivating for them today?
What's amazing is how grounded the whole approach remains.
Yeah.
It never devolves into just soft, fluffy, feel-good leadership advice.
What's fascinating here is the uncompromising nature of the material. It refuses to let anyone off the hook.
Right.
It does not give high performers a pass for being toxic jerks who destroy team culture just because they happen to bring in massive revenue.
We've all worked with that guy.
Exactly. But crucially, it also refuses to let highly relational, nice guy leaders off the hook for failing to deliver actual, measurable results. It exposes exactly where our leadership is out of balance and demands that we integrate both the engine and the oil.
It really is a mirror for anyone who influences others.
Yeah.
And the practical application of this book is designed brilliantly. It's structured perfectly for a 10-week journey.
Yeah, it's very accessible.
You could take your executive team through it, use it in a small group, or even just use it for your own personal development. Every chapter ends with targeted reflection questions.
Which is great.
So the core action step for you listening to this deep dive right now is very simple. Read just one chapter, sit down with your team, and ask, what is one specific, tangible action we are going to implement this week?
Yes, one thing.
Not a brand new corporate philosophy, just one practical deposit into the trust account.
It bridges the gap between the theoretical and the highly operational. It forces you to actually change your calendar, change your meeting agendas, and change how you speak to people.
So what does this all mean? When we boil this entire exploration down, we are being reminded of a fundamental truth that the modern marketplace tries incredibly hard to make us forget. Profits fade, but people are eternal.
They really are.
In whatever economy you are operating in, human relationship is ultimately your most valuable, enduring currency.
It is the only currency that actually compounds across generations.
Exactly. So I want to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on long after this deep dive ends. If you were to brutally, honestly audit your own trust bank account at work right now, what would you find?
That's the real test.
Are you living comfortably on the compounding interest of years of empathetic, honest relational deposits? Or are you dangerously overdrawn, wondering why every project feels incredibly hard without even realizing your account is bankrupt?
A vital, potentially life-changing question.
It all comes back to how you started your day. When you walked in, were you just a performer hitting your marks to earn your performance currency? Or did you have the courage to show up as a person, ready to build relationship currency? Think about it. We'll see you next time.